profit to the people is in turn just democratized funding. And it's an opportunity for anyone to see something that they believe in and get in early and have the opportunity to make those big bucks without having that hurdle of the accredited investment.
Welcome, everyone, to Profit to the People, the official podcast of Republic, where we believe you have the power to invest in the future you believe in. Today, I'm here with Emily Griffith. She is the founder and CEO of Lil Bucks, America's mission-driven buckwheat brand. She discovered an innovative use of sprouted buckwheat while working a digital marketing job in Sydney, Australia, and since 2017 has been on a mission to popularize buckwheat in the USA. Lil Bucks is part of the Republic family. Emily, welcome to Profit to the People.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here and can't believe we're on the other side of our first campaign with y'all. Definitely a game changer. So excited to talk to you.
Awesome. Tell us first about buckwheat and why this is a superfood. Get us acquainted with your product.
Yes. So I'll say, first of all, what makes buckwheat a superfood is not just its health benefits, but it has an amazing crunch and taste, which I like to lead with, because if I list all the health benefits, you'll never want to eat it because it sounds way too healthy. But I had it for the first time in Australia on an acai bowl where they put the sprouted buckwheat, they replaced granola with it. So there were these crunchy seeds on top of the like cold smoothie. And I fell in love with the taste and texture of those seeds. And then the best part was I felt really great after eating it. And that's because buckwheat itself, it's actually not a grain or wheat. It's technically a fruit seed. So it's grain-free and gluten-free. It's a source of complete amino acid, plant-based protein, high in fiber, super high in antioxidants, especially heart healthy ones. So sometimes some Americans at least know that buckwheat, have some buckwheat pancakes because it's good for your heart. But yeah, I'd never seen the use of having crunchy sprouted buckwheat seeds like the Aussies have uses for it, putting it on their smoothies, using it as a granola, putting it in other products, putting it on your toast and your salads. So that kind of gave me the buckwheat obsession.
So you were obsessed with buckwheat. And then at what point did you say, let's make a business out of this?
Yeah, I thought maybe, maybe it's because I'm from the Midwest and we just hadn't had this type of buckwheat. It hadn't made its way to, sometimes the trends start on the coast and make their way in. And I'm doing research because I'm getting ready to move back to the US. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no brands focused on this food. That's so surprising to me. I thought like I was just missing out on it or something. And I'm doing a little more research. I'm like, oh my gosh, that doesn't make any sense because buckwheat is a great crop. It grows actually really well in the Midwest. That's where we get our buckwheat. And it's amazing for soil health. So it's especially great for organic farmers using it as a natural cover crop to bring more nutrients into the soil. So there's kind of this like knock out of the park, this seed that tastes amazing. It's super versatile. So we can do a ton of stuff with it. It's really healthy. It aligns with pretty much all health food trends besides ketogenic. And it's great for soil health. So it's something that can be a part of the future of food and contribute to crop diversity in North America. So bringing all my passions together personally, I think it was just a no-brainer and became, I definitely didn't have any CPG experience. I came from the digital marketing ad agency world, as you mentioned. But, it kind of started, I started the brand, I think when I was 25. So it started as an innocent, like, well, I'll just make, did graphic design too. So I was like, I'll just make a cool logo and packaging and put it on a pretty website. And like, everyone will just find out about this and it'll be cool. And then of course, the more I'm learning and getting into the industry and meeting people, it's like, oh my gosh, this needs to be in pantries across America. How do we do that? And so it was kind of a learn by doing process rather than, go out and raise a ton of money and hire the best people in the industry and make it happen.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that's the way to do it. We've had so much hype around this story of have cool idea in garage, go out and raise a bunch of money from like glamorous VCs. But the reality is at the end of the day, especially if you're creating a CPG product, you need people to rally around the brand and the product and the mission of what you're creating, because they're the ones who are going to be buying it.
Exactly. And I think, before you do want to throw a ton of money into buckwheat, though that first year, especially where I was mostly, it was really challenging because I started a marketing consultancy to, pay the rent, and then bootstrap Lil Bucks. So, I'm doing basically 2 full-time jobs at once, making Lil Bucks in a shared kitchen at night, selling it at markets on the weekends. So I was definitely pretty exhausted, but still will never, take that, want that taken away from the business, because it was that first year where we were on the ground. People were trying the buckwheat seeds. I was looking at their faces and seeing, like, are they excited about it? Are they having the same moment as me? What's clicking for them? Is it the health benefits? Is it the taste? Which is why something I actually learned early on was when I was at these farmers markets and fitness festivals, I was like, come try this protein packed, like gluten-free magical superfood. And everyone's like, especially in Chicago, they're like, no. And then I'm like, oh, hey, here's a delicious crunch for your yogurt or ice cream. Now they're listening. And then they try it and then fall in love. So that first year was crucial. And I think also that community we built around Lil Bucks is what attracted me to doing something like Republic in the first place.
Yeah. And that's such a good point about like just pitching yourself and testing out different taglines or different value propositions. Mm-hmm. Because I think so many people will often forget that they're creating products for customers. And so to actually figure out what messages resonate with your customers and iterating as you're doing that. And that's like the real grassroots kind of way of being an entrepreneur, is saying like, I'm going to create something that is going to actually resonate with you, that you want to buy and put in your pantries.
Yeah. And actually, that's even how this was still while we were making everything in shared commercial kitchens, is how we came out with our second product line, Cluster Bucks, which are buckwheat granola clusters. That our first product line is just Lil Bucks sprouted buckwheat crunch. So they're different flavors of just the sprouted buckwheat seeds. So there's a bit of education on like, how do you use these seeds? And someone who's really adventurous in the kitchen or likes making their breakfast at home every day, Lil Bucks really resonates with them. But we were hearing from some people, and even like my own friends and family, that are like, hey, we're not really, this is awesome, we support you. And because we learned about it through Emily Griffith, we will try this weird seed. But in general, that's not like how they come to find their new favorite products. So we did come up with Cluster Bucks as a way to have these clustered buckwheats that are more something you eat on the go. Americans are familiar with clusters. It's more snackable. And that brought in a whole another wave of consumers that are attracted to our products just because clusters make sense to them. And then, maybe later in the journey is the Lil Buck seed. So that was kind of a crucial learning in the first year and a half. And really glad we did that, because some people are more drawn to the exciting Lil Bucks new seeds for their pantry, like I was in Australia. And some are like, oh, cool snack. And then learn more about buckwheat that way.
So how are you growing now, and how are you continuing to market this to new customers who may not know the value of buckwheat?
Yeah, so buckwheat and education around that will always be, a big focus for us. So we are marketing the products through, we do want to be a brand in the future of food and pantries across America. So we have to meet the consumers where they are. So doing the omni-channel approach with retail, Amazon, and our website, and then also food service being juice bars, hopefully airports, college, convenience stores, stuff like that. So right now we're focused on our retail presence in the Midwest and California. We've just, we're in Whole Foods in the Midwest and are in Erewhon and Lawson's in LA, and are starting to expand more, which is exciting. So, consumers can see it on the ground in their stores. And then obviously there's a ton of discovery to be had on Amazon, especially with specialty foods. And our website is, direct to consumer, great experience. We can test limited time flavors on there. We can take people through marketing funnels that really truly educate and engage them on what buckwheat is and how to use it. So obviously we have the most control there, which is great for a brand like ours, where, showing how it's used and educating on, oh, buckwheat is not a grain and it's a fruit seed. And this is why it's good for soil health. And did you know this is a complete amino acid protein? Have you tried it on your ice cream? Giving them ideas is always really important to us. So actually through the Republic campaign, we were able to hire a marketing coordinator who started taking on, because I have a background in social media from the ad agency world. So that was great. But of course, as you're like getting bigger and we were servicing, 51 Whole Foods and raising money and all that, like social media was last on my list. So that was huge because it's so important. That's how we got our first community around us. And so yeah, now we're taking it to the next level with content and showing everyone how it's done.
Awesome. So let's dive into your fundraising journey. At what point did you say, I need to raise for my community and Republic's a good choice for me to help me scale my product?
Gosh, yeah, fundraising is such a learning experience for me because, like I said, started this when I was 25, no startup experience, no clue how anything worked with. I didn't know like what a Series A round was, like that clueless. So I did raise a small friends and family round before we launched into Whole Foods, which of course happened March of 2020, which was bonkers in and of itself because we launched into a grocery store, our first big chain during, the most unprecedented month in grocery store history. So that was pretty crazy. At that time, I knew we needed to raise more money and continue to, spend probably, at least 40% or sometimes 50% of my time was just on fundraising and talking to investors, talking to anyone, pitching in pitch competitions. And it was getting to a point, I thought if I put my all into fundraising, it'll happen by the fall and I'll finally be able to hire the team and all this stuff. And the fall of 2020 rolls around and I'm still fundraising. It was just a really challenging environment because I tapped out my friends and family that I knew I could go to, and see if they wanted to invest, and they had to be accredited investors. So that took out like a lot of my friends and family wanted to support and a lot of our customers, but you have to be an accredited investor. So that just took out a lot of the potential investors for me. So, and I'm talking to all these industry investors and everyone's like, well, we got to see $1 million in revenue plus. And why don't you have a team? I'm like, well, because we don't have money to pay a team, obviously.
Good question. This is like why VCs are annoying, right? Because it's always like, well, that's why I'm asking, that's why I'm raising money so I can scale my team.
I already had the team identified and all that. It's like, I mean, I could, but I don't. Like, I had one firm, someone from the meeting told me in front of everyone I needed an adult in the room.
Oh my God.
So
only women can get the questions.
I know. And I mean, there's just so many things. And I've talked to so many other women founders in the CPG world that we all have just these hilarious stories. But so yeah, I was really down in the dumps about fundraising come fall 2020. I've been raising for almost a year. And I'm like, what's the deal? Like we want a Naturally Chicago pitch slam. Like everyone's so excited about this, but in our community and all these people that are like individuals from firms are like, oh my gosh, like if I were investing on behalf of myself, I would totally invest. But it's the firm and the institutions, it takes a long time to, for them to evolve, I guess. Like there's all this talk of investing in women and minority businesses, but that's just going to take time. And so then at that point, I was introduced to the idea of crowdfunding and met with someone from Republic, and it just totally clicked immediately. I think I met with someone on your team in October of 2020, and I was like, this is it. We have to do it. This is our chance. Because, the time is ticking on our runway. And so I was like, probably a turnaround. And within 6 weeks, we were launching on Republic by the end of just before the New Year's. And because I kind of had this faith, I was like, we have such a passionate community, such an interesting idea. I really think it's going to work. And also as a CPG brand, getting in front of more people, it's in general for being potential customers. And then also meeting more investors, because I was like, I've tapped out my network. I've literally virtually met with every person I can think of on the face of this planet. So we need to just cast the net wider, get some new faces in here. So definitely paid off. My gut was right. And we had a really successful campaign. So I'm so grateful.
That's awesome. So you closed that campaign, and then I know you're raising now again. Tell me how that's been like.
Yeah, so we've always be raising, but so last year, at first it was like, we were raising a $400,000 friends and family, thinking that would get us to a Series A, LOL. But we raised 260,000 on that, and so I was trying to close the rest of that in early 2020, and then I'm kind of having a step back, and I'm like, okay, this is taking a lot longer than it is. Now we're going to need to prove out a lot more before a Series A. Let's raise 900,000. And so, and just try to get exactly what we need to truly get to the Series A. So I've been talking to investors all year about that. And in the meantime, I'm like, well, clearly we need to buy more time. This whole raising money thing is taking forever. And all I keep hearing is, where's your team? And I'm like, well, I can't magically have a team that I don't pay. And so I was like, well, if we have a successful Republic campaign, A, get in front of more investors, which I really need to do, because I was like, I think I've exhausted all contact I could find. And B, then at least be able to hire one of my identified teammates and get the ball rolling and take some stuff off my plate so we can prove more traction. Because then one of the funny things too is we were still growing without me really doing any work on the business, because I was full 100% in fundraising to make sure we stay alive. And we were still growing without really anyone doing work on the business. And yeah, so fortunately, the Republic campaign exceeded my wildest dreams. And we were able to.
What were you able to achieve as a result? So how much did you raise, and then what were you able to achieve as a result of the campaign?
We raised 155,000, and through that we were able to, just have some breathing room. It wasn't to start doing more strategic marketing again and support. So we launched our second product line into Whole Foods. We were expanding distribution in California. So I was like, the time is here. Like, this was all happening in February and March of this year. So I was like, I hope we can finally have some marketing dollars to properly support this, instead of it just going off the shelf and, us not saying anything because we don't have any time or money. But yeah, one of the biggest things was being able to hire the marketing coordinator. The team was just one of my biggest focuses. And through that, actually met our marketing manager, who came on from another granola brand a couple weeks ago. So and in general, the campaign just put us on the map. I think a lot of those investors that didn't take me seriously, all of a sudden, were writing to me. I was overwhelmed with inbound from investors, which I still am, which is great. I think people doubted, they really doubted. And then, the valuation caps I was getting offered in the fall and prior to the campaign are a lot lower than what they are now.
The power dynamic really shifted.
Yeah, 100%. It's really crazy. I think, sometimes you just have to go with your gut as an entrepreneur. I think some people crowdfunding, you shouldn't do that. I don't know why, because I believe in it, obviously. But you hear from some investors crowdfunding, that's just shows that you can't raise money from anywhere else. I'm like, well, A, I can't really. B, why not? This is such an amazing way to rally a community around a business idea they believe in. And it worked. And then suddenly everyone's like, wow, that's such a good idea that you raised on Republic. And I'm getting all these investors sending me other businesses they want to talk to me about raising on Republic, to the point where I was like, I need to write a blog post about tips for raising on Republic, because it's great. But I think it really turned the industry on to oh, this is a really good option. There's been a lot of really great CPG brands that raised on the platform and that I admire. I talked to before too, Renewal Mill had a successful campaign on the platform, 2 women founders. Akua, I think, have one of the biggest raises on your platform, another female founder. So it just made a lot of sense for us, and put us on the map finally.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of times just anything when it comes to innovation, it's just people don't believe it until they see it. And then suddenly they have FOMO.
Oh, 100%. And then that really helped. So I was telling you before we hopped on here, but we closed part of our convertible note. We closed $700,000 of that 3 days after the Republic campaign, and actually met our lead investor because he saw like a Republic advertisement for our product and checked it out and was like, oh my gosh, this is really interesting. And yeah, so we still have 200,000 open from that we're figuring out the last bit, but it truly, I mean, it opened up the universe in terms of more investors that are interested. So my gut was right. The money was out there somewhere. I was just like, we need to find a way to break through. So it was a good, one of the best, I think, turning points for Lil Bucks and business decisions I made was going all in on this campaign and spending 3 days making our campaign video on iMovie. But it worked.
Amazing. Yeah. And I mean, with money, I think entrepreneurs, we have to have that trust in our gut and also this almost blind faith in ourselves that we're going to do it and we're going to raise the money and we're going to succeed. And it's not a matter of if, but when it's going to happen.
Exactly. And I think when I would get in lows about it was because I've never once doubted the idea truly, like, this will be in every pantry across America. We want to be the Quaker Oats of buckwheat. It's happening. And never doubted that, there would be a light at the end of the tunnel. There is another side to, getting past this fundraising hurdle. But there were some lows where, you're like, I'm going to put everything I have into it and it's going to happen. And then when it still hasn't, it was so hard. That's definitely the hardest. I mean, there's a lot of challenges in starting a business and like burnout and figuring everything out yourself and waiting for 8 hours in like City Hall in Chicago and all that fun stuff. But the low I had from how long fundraising was taking and some of the kind words I heard were hard to take. And I remember even my fiance, actually, bless him and his support. I was really bummed out one day, like, when is this going to happen? Like, nobody wants to invest, obviously that's not true. And this is so simple, but he's like, you just have to not quit. Like, which is so much easier said than done, obviously. But he's like, it's going to happen. You're making it happen. The idea is here. You just have to not quit. And I was like, you're right. So, and that's around when I was putting together the Republic campaign where, you're like, okay, like getting all my energy together to put out this amazing campaign. Because that campaign page lives forever, in theory. You want it to look good, put your best foot forward. So put a ton of effort into it. Pick yourself back up again. You're like, this is it. Like, this could be it. And fortunately, and the challenges don't end here. New set of challenges, but really grateful. And that advice at that point when we were getting ready to do our Republic campaign was just don't quit. Okay, just keep going. Figure it out.
There's like this concept of the dip where it's like right before you shoot up, it's like there's this dip that always happens. You're like going, and then it's like some sort of obstacle, some sort of thing. And we don't know how long that dip lasts, but you're just like in this dip and you're like, when am I going to get out of this dip? And a lot of people quit. That's the moment when people quit. It's like at that the lowest point of the dip. And I think the only people who succeed are the ones who see the dip, they stay in that dip, and they're like, I have no idea when this is going to end, but it will end. And so it's just a matter of when it's going to happen.
I love thinking about it that way. That's really cool. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs can use to hear that. We've all been in, like, I talked to a lot of, especially women in the food industry, and we've all had our various dips and just, be like, you will get through this. Like, it totally sucks, but you'll figure it out. And most of them have. So that's I like that.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to say to your current or potential investors?
I mean, I think I say this in every update, but just immense gratitude for your faith in me and, my ability to bring on a great team to put behind this idea. No matter how small or large the investment, it's truly made such an impact on the trajectory of Lil Bucks. And this will go down as history as the turning point, I think, for the business. So thank you for being a part of it. And I'm excited. We already, we've brought on 2 team members, closed on some additional funding. We're going into more chains and really excited to continue sharing the Lil Bucks growth and finally get you your discount codes, which we're working on sending out.
And finally, what does bringing profit to the people mean to you?
Okay, I think it means, it's a big thing that we talked about all through the campaign. Profit to the people is in turn just democratized funding. And it's an opportunity for anyone to see something that they believe in and get in early and have the opportunity to make those big bucks without having that hurdle of the accredited investment. So profit to the people, it's my dream. With our products, we're obviously we're a for-profit business, but I like to think that what we're doing for the environment, we're actually contracted our first fully regenerative, organic certified buckwheat run for that will be harvested in the fall of this year. So, that's going to improve just years of other crops grown on that farm. And so that benefit is going beyond our business. So not only from our business are we having that kind of benefit of the profit of a better for you product, this business better for the planet, but giving people a chance to get in on these exciting things. You hear about, oh, they got rich because they got in on Uber's right at the start. And now, but you still already have to be rich to get in on Uber right at the start. And now it's an opportunity for everyone to have a chance at that big dream.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Emily, for all of your hard work and for bringing us the power of buckwheat. We're so excited to have you as part of the Republic family.
Yes, thank you so much. We'll always go down in the Lil Bucks history as a big high note.
This podcast is provided for educational purposes only by Republic and Republic.co. Nothing discussed should be construed as legal, tax, accounting, or investment advice. The views of the presenters may not be the views of Republic and its affiliates. Always consult with trusted professional advisors before making investments. Private investments are inherently illiquid and may result in a total loss. All rights reserved.